Hey guys, I'm going to be talking to you today about lithium batteries. We got one there. That's a 2-cell. We got 3-cell, another 2-cell, a 3-cell, and another 2-cell. Size has really nothing to really do with the amount of cells they have. 2-cell just simply means that it's 2 cells stacked on top of each other. You can see that this 3-cell is actually thinner and it's just wider. Just the different guns, different applications. This one's for my quadcopter. This one's for one of my other quadcopters. You got 3,000 milliamp 3-cell, 1,000 milliamp 3-cell, 2,000 milliamp 2-cell, and this one's a 25 or 250, and then you got a 500 milliamp 2-cell. These guys. So there's a lot of like myths and stuff I've been like reading, come across on Reddit, and I just kind of want to dispel them because I don't want to have anyone have a Lipo blow up in their gun or have a bad time, start a fire while they're charging or they're over discharge their batteries and make them garbage. So basically, a few key things you want to know is 3.7 volts is the nominal voltage. Nominal. And then you got 4.2, which is your max voltage. Then you got 3, which is your minimum. Put the decimal in there to keep the integers the same for you neat freaks and OCD people. I'm one of those. So basically your nominal voltage is where your battery is at when it's under discharged. Like when it's being used, it should put out 3.7 volts per cell. These are all per cell. You're going to see 7.4. It's really common in airsoft. A lot of people run 7.4s. Then you got 11.1s for people who have the high speed builds. We don't really go much beyond that. I'm not going to really talk much beyond that because it's not really important. You just know that this one's a 2-cell and this one's a 3-cell. Things to know is you don't want to go past 4.2, and you don't want to discharge below this. We'll start with this one. A lithium charger will not charge a battery past 4.2 if it's set up correctly. There's chargers that can charge more than lithium batteries. If you got it set to lithium, Lipo, whatever, you're going to be fine. This is per cell. So when this battery is fully charged, it'll be 8.4 for a 2-cell charged. And a 3-cell is going to be 12.6. And that's just simply 4.2 times 3 or 4.2 times 2. And when they're fully discharged, you're looking at 6 and 9 volts for a 2-cell, 3-cell. After you go below the 3 volts per cell, they start to break down, they start to puff, they start to expand. That's when you see all the kids with the packs that look like cylinders instead of squares. Like they should be looking like squares. Like this is your charge lead, your black and red, unless you like change it yourself. That's like your charging discharge lead. That's what you plug in your gun. It's one of the things you should plug in your charger. You should also plug in this connector. It's called a Molex connector. You can see these two are very similar. Just simply different brands. They use different color wiring for the Molex connectors. One thing that's always common though is you'll notice that the one on the left here, when I hold them both like this, or if you flip them over, you can see that the pins are the same, they're same connectors, they're always black. That's the ground. And the one, a lot of times they'll start with red and then they'll work to another color. These are 2 cells, so easy way to tell a 2-cell, 3-cell is you can see that there's 3 wires. One's a ground, that one doesn't count, the other 2 are going to each other cells. So, you know that's a 2-cell by just looking at the Molex connector. And just subtract 1 from the Molex connector. This is a 3-cell. It's got 4 connections. You can see it's got that ground. It starts with a red. They don't just know that you can look. Oh, that's a 2-cell because it's got a 3-pin connector. Oh, it's a 3-cell. It's got a 4-pin connector. Not that hard to figure out. These are kind of important though. You don't want to cut these off. These, what they do is they allow each individual volt. Like say you have, when you're done with your battery, it's fully discharged. Say you get down to like 3.3 on one cell and then 3.0 on another cell. So now your battery is like sitting kind of uneven. Well, what these do is you got the one that plugs into your charger, and then these will each plug into the charger, but they're adjusted separately, like when they're plugged in, so that they equal, you know, they're going to be the same so that they both meet that 4.2. And then you got your charge lead. The charge lead is for special chargers that can charge them faster. It'll put juice through here, and then it kind of regulates and balances while it does that. Better ones do it faster. You want to be careful with some. You want to make sure your battery can handle what you're charging and stuff. So we'll get into that right now. So this is 250 milliamps. This one's 500 milliamps. This one's twice as big as this one. Same cell as everything. This one charges twice as fast by a C rating, in theory, because C rating simply is milliamps divided by 1000. That's the charge rating. There's also another C rating, and I'll get to that too. So the charge rating for this one would be 0.5 amps, because 1000 goes into 500 0.5 times. So then that's the max you should charge the battery. Most batteries, that's just the standard. That's what you want to do. But some batteries, they have, like this one actually says you can charge it at 0.3 when it's not a 300 milliamp. I charge it at 0.25 because realistically this thing charges in 5-10 minutes. I don't really care that much to blow it or whatever, but it says it can handle. Some batteries can. This is one that can handle like 3.5 amps when it's 3000 milliamps. So you know, it's not a 3500, but it says it can still handle it. It's a higher quality battery. You can probably even charge these up to 5 amps. I see a lot of people do it. It just charges them faster. The battery gets warmer. You know, a little bit more wear and tear on the battery, but it doesn't make a huge difference in these bigger batteries when they get that big. But you don't run anything like this in airsoft. This is for a quadcopter. Something like this, you got 2000 milliamps right there. Otherwise 2.0. This thing you're charging at 2 amps. I mean, it's 2000 milliamps. That's what you're charging. 1000 milliamps, even if it's a 3-cell, still charge it at 1 amp, because it knows that it's charging whatever through, and it's also balancing through the lead simultaneously as it does it. There's this one. You can see the wall plug. I'm just going to unplug it right away. Plugs in there. This one does 3 cells and 2 cells. So you got your 2 cells. Your 2 cells are plugged right in there. They fit. The 3 cells plug into the other one with the Molex connectors. This one is not charged by the leads here. It only uses Molex. It's a pretty slow charger, but it's kind of like a balance charger. So it's going to balance your cells, make sure they're even as they go to as it fully charges them, which is something you really want. I'd get one of these over any of the fancy ones, just to have as a backup. I use mine as a backup all the time. I'll use it as a field charger. This one charges right here. It says at 800 milliamps, so it's a little bit slower. If I'm trying to charge a 1000 milliamp pack, it's slower because I can be charging it at an amp. You don't want to charge a 500 milliamp on this one just because it's not rated. This next one here, I'm gonna plug it in. This is a fancier one. It's only like 30 bucks though. When I got it, they make them for cheaper now, I think. That first charger I showed you, this Traxxas one. You wouldn't get the Traxxas brand just because it's a brand, but you can find clones and everything on Hobby King, and those are going to be like $5-10 tops. This one, you got your Lipo, Li-Fi, NIMI, NiCad, and lead acid, which are like car batteries, and you can go through and charge all those. I'm just gonna see, got a battery I can hook up here. So here's the battery I want to charge. So my main rule is you use a Lipo safe bag, and ta-da, I already have one in the bag. So same battery, it's just a little bit different. I'll get to that in a second when I talk about discharge ratings and stuff. So you plug it in like you're charging Lipos. We're not going to go through all the other settings on the charger just because it's irrelevant for this demonstration. And I'm going to plug it in, and you can see all the Molex connectors on the side. That's just how it's pinned out. I have another one. It's actually on a tray. I can show you that one next here in a second. But say I'm going to go charge this battery. So I'm going to start, select it. So now it's a 3-cell battery, so I know I want to charge it at 11.3 3-cell. There's the S again that we were talking about. It's 1000 milliamps, just like the other pack was. So we're charging at 1 amp. We're going to hold it to start it. It's going to ask if we want to confirm it. We just hit yes. So this charger, not really necessary. You can do 2 batteries at once. You plug the different leads in for Dean's connectors or Tamiya. This is your Molex connector here, so you can do all your 3 cells, 2 cells. There again, you can see that 2S, 3S. Just notating the cells. Same thing on the other side with a This one you can hook up to a car battery. So, I mean, if you're on a field and you didn't have, I might take something like this. Although for my other charger, I do have a hookup for it where I can plug it into a 12-volt source and still charge on it, because car batteries give away a lot of amperage. You can kind of do, you can still probably get away with charging a 3-cell. It's just a little bit trickier. Your charger might get a little bit warmer. So, getting into discharge rating, like I was talking about earlier when I had this battery that I was going to charge. You can see that the leads on these are a little bit thinner than these. These are kind of chunky here compared. You can see that. And that has a little bit to do with the C rating for discharge. You can see this one's 30 to 40. And then you got this one's 25 to 35. So it's basically how much juice this battery can pump out. And for airsoft, as far as we're concerned, it's not that big of a deal. But something to note that I don't know what the comparison is, but like NEMEs, like the cell batteries that are like your 9.6 volts or whatever, the reason they don't put out as much of a snappy trigger response is because they can't discharge as fast as a lithium battery can. A lithium battery gets way more snap out of the hole than a NEME does. You're getting way more torque. You put it in an RC airplane, you can hover, whereas if you're running a NEME, it's heavier, it doesn't give you the snap. Higher C ratings, when I jump from, like, say 25, 35 to up to 30, 40, it's a noticeable difference when you're flying, but it's just not that big of a deal in airsoft that I've noticed. Unless you're running a super high torque setup and your motor can actually handle and utilize the voltages without overheating or destroying your gearbox, I wouldn't worry too much about those. I mean, the average one for airsoft is going to be like 15, 25. I wouldn't really exceed that. But it's just kind of, it doesn't really matter because it's what your motor can draw. So if your motor's not drawing that amount of amperage, like I can run this in, say this was a 2-cell and I was running a 30-40, it might be a little bit faster, it might not be. It's really what your gun can handle, what it can draw. You know, it might just destroy itself if it's drawn too much, but most of the time that's not going to be because of the battery or motor setup. It's going to be the motor's being overworked or something like that. So something to get into that you really want to know. A big thing at fields when I see kids puff their batteries is kids buy one battery, people buy one battery. Lithium batteries can be expensive. Buy from Hobby King. Hobby King. They don't always have the best customer service, but you know, sometimes I've heard people buy batteries and they just get a dead battery on arrival. But here's the difference: you can buy this battery from RC shop, and you can buy a very similar one. I don't have one. Maybe this one here. Pretty much the closest thing I have within arm's reach. Same batteries. This is a 30-40, so it's a little bit higher C rating. The batteries can be shaped differently. Same milliamps and everything. This one's from Hobby King. This one's from a hobby shop. This thing maybe cost me, it's a higher C rating and everything, so normally they're more expensive if you were to go to the hobby shop and buy the same batteries. But this one was 70 bucks and this one was like 10. And this is Hobby King. So whenever I buy from Hobby King, sometimes you get a dead one. You're spending $10, you're spending anything airsoft, this would be $5. At the store I went to, it was 20. I mean, they're just marking the things up like crazy. I've also got dead ones from stores too that sell Hobby. This is Hobby King brand. I've gotten dead ones before. I always bring this with me. I'll get to what this is in a second. But this is Hobby King, and you might get a dead one, but you're spending like a quarter of the price. So I order 2 or 3 at a time, just because I expect to get a dead one. Personally, I've never gotten a dead one. A couple people I race with, they've claimed they gotten dead ones, so I mean, it happens. Hobby King doesn't have the best customer service, and I just don't like to deal with people, so I'll buy a couple because I'm already getting them for cheaper. But I mean, that's just kind of something to be aware of. Otherwise, you can go to the store and spend 4 times the price. You know, looking at this one, 20 bucks. You can get it on Hobby King for like $3 probably, and then you got shipping factored in, whatever. Just make sure you're ordering from the U.S. warehouse. You don't have to wait from China. Make sure it's in stock and whatnot. Just some, you know, basic online stuff. So getting back to what this is. This is a cell voltage checker. While you're on Hobby King buying your batteries, you want to make sure you get one of these. These are cell voltage checkers. So I'm going to plug this in. It's going to beep. It's going to be annoying. Just a little bit. I'm going to put my finger over it. So what this is doing, I'm going to turn off my light. You see we've got 7.3 volts. That's the total voltage. And then it showed 370, 368. Those 370, 368, that's number 1 cell, number 2 cell. It's just going through a reading. That's what it does. These things are amazing. They save your batteries from exploding, or save you from exploding your batteries, or destroying them, or puffing them. I mean, batteries don't explode, but basically, when your battery puffs, I say it's good as garbage because I don't like to run them. They're not safe. They're, you know, I mean, some kids run puffy batteries and they don't have issues. This is a 3 cell. You can see it was 12.4. And it's gonna go through it's gonna go through 3 different cells because it's a 3 cell battery. So number 1, number 2, and number 3. Then the total. And these are great little tools. Hobby King, you get them for like they're a dime a dozen basically. You know, $1 a piece. Not very expensive as far as something that's concerned that's gonna save your batteries. You're firing your gun and all of a sudden your battery starts, you know, you start sensing that your rate of fire is kind of slowing down or something. You know, a lot of people just keep running their battery, and you know, because like with NEMIs and NICADs, you run them until they're dead, and then your gun doesn't fire anymore. Unless you got a MOSFET set up, which I highly recommend. Other than everyone talks about your trigger contacts, they should be talking about the fact that you run your Lipo down so far that you destabilize, you get below the 3 volts, because this thing will keep pumping out and pumping out and pumping out, and it'll just puff up like a strawberry, you know, just go, you know, puff right up, and it's not good for the battery because, I mean, after you get, it kind of starts to destabilize, it's not going to charge right, it's not going to hold. In the field, I mean, this is your lifesaver because you're running your gun, maybe it's doing something weird, or maybe you're just playing a few scrimmages, not like a mil sim, and you carry this on you, and between games you just check your cell voltage, you know where you're at, you're not below 3 volts, you're not getting close to 3 volts. I normally stop around like 3.5 volts per cell because I'll notice that my rate of fire slows down around there, and I'll just swap out batteries. And that's what I was talking about, buy more than one battery, because you're going to want to keep running your battery down to nothing. Oh, I only got one more game, but by the end of that game you're down to 2.8 volts or 2.6 volts, and it's really hard to get the battery back to where it needs to be without puffing it or destroying it or risking a fire. And at that point, to me, it's just not worth it. I know a lot of people who are able to bring them back and they say they work just fine, but personally, I mean, airsoft guns, you gotta fit one down the buffer tube, and if it's puffing and it's not gonna fit in there right, and you want to keep them where they're at, you know, you want the same shape and everything. But anyways, you could also, like say you're running a PEC box, something to consider is running your Molex connector, the white connector, outside your PEC box. Even though it doesn't look cool, you could run a Molex connector outside of your PEC box here like this, and then say you're running on the field, like say you're running a milsim or something fancy like that, and even just if you're in your friend's backyard, you know, just have your Molex connector, because when you got that connector there, boom, pull this guy out, and it's a little bit tricky because it's kind of short, but you can still plug it in, and then you're seeing what your voltage is running for the cells, and you kind of know where you're at. It should be right around 3.8, 3.9, it's fine. But fully discharged Lipos, something to note, they're going to be right around 3 cells per, and you don't want to leave them there, because Lipos, you leave them, any battery, they'll slowly deteriorate over time. How long, I don't know, maybe Lipos are some of the faster ones, but I don't like to leave them there. I like to, the storage, the optimal storage is 3.8. That's what that's what everyone recommends. 3.8 for storage. So when you're done at the end of the day and your batteries are somewhere near 3.5, 3.6, 3, maybe 2.9 if you warm down that far, I mean, your rate of fire suffers, maybe your motor can't even pull back the spring and you're just burning out your motor at that point. Hard on the battery, hard on the motor. You're down there, charge them up to 3.8. Next time you go to use them, you're already sitting at 3.8. To get to that 4.2, you're not that far away. Your batteries don't charge as long. It's at the end of the day, you're putting away your airsoft stuff anyways. Bring your batteries up to storage voltage. They slowly deteriorate. That gives it a good buffer. You're not super charged. Some people will charge the batteries and leave them at 4.2 per cell and just leave them and say they fine. I personally don't, but I know a lot of people who do. They say they don't make any difference. I've heard it's bad for the battery's memory and other stuff, and I'm not going to really get into memory of the batteries and stuff like that, so that's kind of a whole different ball of wax, but this is just kind of basic stuff right here. So to cover lithium batteries, don't go below 3 volts. This is your max that you want to hit. You cannot charge with a NEMI or NICAD charger. It just doesn't work. You need to have this guy charging. You don't need to have this one charging. You can just have them, you know, just plug it into the Molex connector. It's just some pretty basic stuff. I'll show this one quick, just how simple it is. Anyone can figure this out. There's nothing complicated about it. I'm going to plug this in. You see it's 3 green lights. I'm going to just turn off my for a second here. We're going to plug it into a 2-cell. One light is going to stay green, and the other 2 are going to go red. That means these 2 are charging. This is the 1 and 2, and then this is the 3. So if I'm running like a 3, I'm going to plug this guy in. All of them are going to go red probably. Boom. None of them are charged. When they hit that 4.2, or get close to it, they're going to start turning green. That's when you know your battery, when they're all green, that's when you know it's ready. Pull them up, They're all green. It's just, this is probably the charger I'd recommend for people to start off with, but definitely get a cell checker because they're definitely worth having. You can get these things for $2 or $3, $1. Just the bare circuit board. This one has a little protective case that's kind of cute. I mean, you really don't need it. I've given away a lot of my spare circuit board ones just because I see people running Lipos without them, and their batteries are puffing. I'm like, dude, plug it in. What are you running? Where's your voltage? You need to be here, not below here. You're somewhere in between. This is where you want to be. This nominal voltage, again, it's just for notating the cell. It's nothing, you know, I mean, it's just the nominal voltage at the battery's voltage should be kicking out when it's under. So when a lot of times when you're running, your battery, I say I stop at 3.6, and that's because the nominal voltage, you start getting below the nominal voltage, and that's when you start losing your rate of fire because your battery can't keep up what it normally puts out. It normally can always, if you're at 4.02 and you start drowning those volts and amps out of there, it's still going to be pumping out this, but you start getting below that, and that's when you notice that your gun starts to go instead of you know, you're not getting your same rate of fire. You start to hear it start to stretch, and that's when you're supposed to stop shooting. You know, call yourself out. It's airsoft. It's not real war. Or do a battery change. You can carry these on the field, check, and be like, oh, I'm below. I'm just going to call myself out, do a battery swap, do whatever you got to do. It's not worth ruining your battery. It's not worth catching your gun on fire or whatever. You know, don't leave these in your car either. Some guy did that on Reddit. You leave them in your car, they shake and bake, you know. They're just going to start a fire. It just gets hot. It's not, you know, green gas gets hot in the car. It's chemicals, and they bubble and they boil, and it's just, you know, look into lithium batteries before you used to buy them and start running them. It's plug and play, and that's the problem. People don't learn, you know, what this guy does right here, this Molex connector. It's important for lithium batteries. And NEMIs don't have it. I've even seen some people cut them off, say you don't need them, say you can just charge with a NEMI, it doesn't matter. That is not true. Those kids, you know, go through a battery every month, and, you know, maybe it lasts for a little bit, but it's just, they don't understand what they're doing, and they don't want to take advice. But I mean, I'm just saying, for everyone's benefit, get one of these, you know, learn the basics. I mean, this pretty much covers everything. Should be enough information in this video that you should be able to feel you can run lithium batteries just fine. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching. Just my little lithium battery rant.